Hi, I'm Alistair Shipley. Driven by the beliefs that everyone has something special to offer, I created Not So Average, the podcast that proves that you don't need to be in the top 1% to be truly extraordinary. Each episode spotlights everyday people from your community, the very individuals you might pass on the street. These relatable stories reveal that whether you're a jack of all trades or a niche specialist, we all have unique experiences and valuable lessons to share. Imagine if we all took a moment to realize we're all not so average. Let's get after it. Hey there, Not So Average listeners. As this podcast is about people going through ups and downs, I am openly sharing that this week I made a little blunder in terms of how I was recording the episode. I got home after the episode was recorded and realized one of our microphones was not properly hooked up. That said, I hope you still tune in because the golden nuggets from this particular guest are money. And this is me showing that we're not in the pursuit of perfection, but actual authenticity. So thank you for tuning in and sticking with it. It's well worth it. Let's get after it. Welcome to this week's episode of Not So Average featuring my good friend, Zac Hartley. Zac, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Alistair. I appreciate it.
Just following the trend of just interviewing my close friends, it seems he's another Mount Royal alumni. Some of you might actually recognize him from a short but very interesting stint on Dragon's Den there. You were, what episode or what season was that?
It was season 13, episode 4.
Okay, so if you have access or if you don't, you can check it out on CBC. I know that you can still find it for one of his previous ventures, Burgundy Oak. But he also had a splash here in Calgary, Alberta for your run at the City Mare. That was a good showing.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
Basically, I think it was a personal incentive for yourself to be the person that was poking the bear and asking the questions that everybody just wanted to hear. Obviously, you wanted to become mayor, but you're in there kind of shit disturbing, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah, it was one of those things where if you want to see a change, you can't just talk about it. You got to go try and make it happen. So I took a run at it, and I'm sure we'll chat more about it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Other things that Zac is well known for is his social media channels, where he breaks down financial topics like the profit and losses of mining your own crypto or benefits of opening your first time home savings accounts up here in Canada. Just all around, just really intelligent financial expertise and breaking it down into bite-sized pieces so people like us can understand, like us, meaning myself, not only through his online platforms, but also his educational courses on Skillshare. So once again, thank you, Zac. I'm excited to interview you and have you on the show. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me, Alistair. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Okay. Should we just get right into it and get to know who Zac is and kind of let you divulge a little bit about your history and your ventures before this?
Right now, I run a couple different businesses. The first one is a media business focused on my personal brand and social media channels, primarily TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So if you want to follow any of my content after this, that's where you can find me. Yeah, but that's basically an entire business on its own. And then second to that, I also run a 3D printing business. I have a small operation with 70 3D printers, one employee, and we design and manufacture primarily accessories for the power tool industry. And that, honestly, it was a hobby of 3D printing that started with one machine and just kind of tinkering and printing my own stuff at home to solve my own problems. And then I had some business experience, so I tried selling a product that was 3D printed. I found some success with it, and then one product has now snowballed into 70 3D printers and a business that is continuously growing each month right now. So those two things, and then I do a little bit of angel investing in startups and local companies here to try and provide my help or guidance and then benefit from the returns. So nice. That's where I'm at today.
That's awesome. So quite a diverse background and current experiences that you're working on. Any startups here in Calgary that you're able to share that you're invested in or that you're excited about, perhaps?
Yeah, the biggest one in Calgary here is probably Good Lawyer. I got involved with them a few years ago, and the company has grown and continues to do some amazing things in the space. So If you run a business with in-house legal counsel, or you need legal counsel, check out Good Lawyer. But it's a pretty special business here in Calgary, and they're growing really fast.
They're doing very well.
Yeah.
Very well. Our friend Grant there, that was at your gathering yesterday, was talking about it. Okay, I kind of like to start off with like early beginnings and figure out the path that you've took to kind of get to where you're at now.
Yeah.
The big part of this podcast is kind of highlighting that success isn't linear. For many people, it is this obstacle course, and you take on the opportunities as they're kind of presented to you. So from the beginning, like what kind of inspired you to even become entrepreneurial? Was it something that was maybe predated before Mount Royal, and what kind of drove you to getting, I guess, started with things like Burgundy Oak?
Yeah, I think I had a pretty competitive spirit growing up. I played a lot of competitive sports. Basketball and football were kind of the primary ones. And we went down to the States a lot for tournaments, and we had to fund our own trips a lot of the time. And so one of the ways we did it was we would have to sell coupon books for grocery stores. I don't know if you ever remember that back in the day, but we would stand at the front entrance to grocery stores and sell coupon books, and we'd make $8 a book, and throughout the regular season we'd sell enough books to save up for a tournament down in the States.
How much was the average trip that you had to take, just to get perspective of how many coupon books you had to sell?
It was $2,000 was like the minimum that we had to raise per player, and it was $8 per book, and we tried to raise $200 per day that we went, and we would go every Sunday.
Yeah.
So, or we tried to go every Sunday that the store would let us in. So if you could hit your $200 and so 25 books would give you $200 per session, and you'd have to go do that 10 times to hit your quota. And if you did that, you could afford your trip to Vegas without needing to find another way to get money. So that introduced me to sales and sort of probably my first experience with business. But I had a passion for sports, so I ended up at Mount Royal University in the business of sports degree. It was kind of like a mix between sports and rec and business at the time. I'm not sure where that kind of degree ended up, but I went through my first year of that, and I realized that I loved all of the business classes and I hated all of the sports classes. Like, it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be as an athlete coming out of high school. And so in my second year, I transitioned into business, a strict business degree, a management degree. And it was at that point where I started to hear about entrepreneurship clubs and pitch competitions and things like that. And so I joined some of these entrepreneurship clubs. I came up with a few ideas. I had some success early on and won some small, like $1,000 grants or a small pitch competition, things like that. And it was kind of like just some traction, where I found some traction and I found something that I think I liked, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I went through 2 or 3 more years at Mount Royal, bouncing around their entrepreneurship program there and meeting everybody at the program. And by the end of it, I knew that I had kind of found what I wanted to do. I realized I'm probably going to be an entrepreneur. I'm not going to have a 9-to-5 job. I'm probably just going to find a way to make this work on my own. And then in my 4th year, I had a business where we were actually creating smokers out of wine and whiskey barrels. And I pitched that business.
Some of those chips.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was 2016. We pitched that business at the big pitch competition at Mount Royal University. We won some money. We ended up merging that company with another one called Burgundy Oak, where we expanded into furniture and decor products made from barrels as well. And then we eventually grew that business, pitched on Dragon's Den, and kind of had a really fun experience there. We kind of closed up most of that business and sold off some of the assets right before COVID happened, and went backpacking around the world, thinking we were going to do a couple-month trip that ended up getting cut in half because of what was happening with the pandemic, and then came home, had to quarantine, and started making content. And luckily, the content that I was making had a larger market than it did before, with everybody receiving some government assistance and getting interested in the stock market. And then when GameStop happened, I had
took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Say, hey, was that an accelerant for you?
Exactly. So I had a couple of videos that did really well when GameStop happened. I had a couple of digital products that did really well when GameStop happened. And then I realized, okay, I can turn this into a full-time job. that job has now become a business, and I'm kind of building systems around that business to automate it and build it up faster and bigger. And now I've started the 3D printing stuff as well. That's sort of the condensed version of what that career path looked like, plus a run at Mare in between there.
Yeah. Did you ever think that you were going to be doing such a diverse collection of ventures when you're, I guess it's easier to look back and say maybe, but when you were younger, you probably didn't expect something like this, did you?
No, definitely not. No, I never would have predicted that I'd be in like these industries or these niches or anything. I think a lot of the principles and the systems and methods between the different businesses are super simple. Like I'm applying all the same rules to all the different businesses, but yeah, I never would have envisioned being in these specific spaces right now.
Oh, they're pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to go check out his 3D printing farm in the basement, and definitely really cool to see about 70 machines running, the dashboard that you have up at any given point, and then I know how hard one of the other employees has to work to make sure that the machines are ready for the next wave of products that are going to be made. It's definitely well thought out. It's not, hey, I'm going to be taking it out or going on vacation, these machines are going to go running unattended. They're definitely going to be utilized every hour of the day if possible. I don't know how you sleep with the noise of them.
They're not bad. They're on a different floor and put in some insulation and a drop-down ceiling, so it keeps most of the noise down. But yeah, I don't like driving to work, so it's just nice having it on the same property.
Yeah, it keeps it close. The work-life balance is a little different in your scenario. You just kind of grab a coffee, run downstairs, and there you are. Burgundy Oak. I have to ask about it, because Dragon's Den was such a hot topic. I don't know if it still has the same notoriety that it does, or it did back then, but what motivated you guys to kind of merge Burgundy Oak and I guess, was it Smoker Barrel?
Yeah, Smoke Barrel and Burgundy Oak.
Yeah, what made you kind of do that, and where did it take you?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was two separate companies at the time where we were friends and we were pretty close with each other. And the business models were just so similar. We were just building different finished products, but we both needed raw barrels, we both needed manufacturing, we both needed storage space. And so instead of paying for two separate places, two separate barrel supplies, two separate accountants and HR and everything, we decided to put the companies together, and we tried to grow that as much as we could. And then the motivation behind Dragon's Den, at the time, Dragon's Den had some pretty substantial popularity, and so it was a great way to show the entire country what our product line was and how cool it was, and tell our story and actually get to pitch the entire product to most of Canada. And so we used it primarily for marketing. Obviously, if a good investment opportunity comes up, we would definitely pursue it. But Dragon's Den isn't necessarily a wonderful way to raise money, especially if you're a business. You have to pitch a producer, and then you have to wait a few months to see if you can go to Toronto, and then you have to pitch in Toronto to the Dragons. And then on your way out of the den, you get a piece of paper with their email list on it. And then 3 or 4 months later, you find out if you're even going to be on TV. And then you got to wait for your episode. So it's
for the forecasting of, is your product just going to blow up? Like, I remember the banana case holder guy.
Yeah.
How do you forecast your supply chain for that airing date?
You can't. You can say, okay, hopefully we're going to sell X amount on this night, and you can set a target for it and stuff. But I mean, you really have no idea what the actual sales dollars are going to be. Hopefully you have data from your website, so you can use conversion rates and say, if 100 people go to my website, 2% of them buy or 4% of them buy, average order value is $50. Hopefully you can put some estimates together, but it's really tricky because some people's business is super perfect for an impulse buy where the product's $20, and other businesses are like a security system or a home gym piece of equipment or something that takes a larger investment. And it really depends on the product and the business model, I'd say.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What did you end up taking any money from any of the Dragons?
No, it was so when we went in, they give you a lot of disclaimers saying there's no guarantee that you're going to get put on the show. Like you could we had a lot of furniture to bring out, and we brought 4 people. So we had 4 people plus furniture that we shipped out there. So we invested let's call it $10,000 into getting all our stuff to Toronto there and back from Calgary. And so we're like, okay, we're going to invest a lot of money. We're going to invest a lot of time into this. How can we increase our chances of getting aired on TV? Because we want to bring in some sales, and if we're going to go through all this, we want to make it on TV. Yeah. And so the strategy that I kind of proposed and that I said was, we need to walk out of there with a deal. We need to take whatever deal they're willing to give us, and our goal should be to get as many dragons as possible in on that deal so that they have something that's kind of unique and a success story where the dragons are working together, and they'll be more motivated to air it. So what we did was we were in the den for 56 minutes, and the first 2 minutes is exactly what you see in the pitch, and then after that, it's literally just Q&A with the dragons. And so for 45 minutes, basically, at the end, we're just negotiating, trying to get more and more dragons into the deal. And so we ended up walking away with 3 dragons, Manjeet, Arlene, and Elaine Merrifield from Kelowna. And so we had three dragons in on our deal, $150,000 for 10%, I think it was. And then we walked out. And we're like, okay, that was great. We had some really good debate. We had dragons coming in and out of the deal, and we locked in with 3 dragons. We were like, okay, that's got to get aired. We felt really good about that. And then when you walk out of the den, the producer comes up with a camera and they say, hey, how do you feel it went? They do a quick 2-minute interview, and then, yeah, exactly. And then on our way out, they handed us a piece of paper, and Manjeet was the lead on our deal. They handed us a piece of paper that said, here's Manjeet's email, send us all your financials, send us a pitch deck, and we'll get in touch. And that's what you get when you leave. And we got a $25 gift card from Jim Chaliving to Boston Pizza. And then they send you on your way. And so like we got there at 7:30. I think we pitched at 9. We were done at 10. And then we had the rest of the day. And it's a really interesting situation because if you're these dragons, they film for about 2 weeks straight. And I want to say they go through 160 pitches. I think they air 90 or 95 of them. And so at the end of it, you're a dragon that's just sat through this for 2 weeks, and you've probably got 15 to 20 deals that you've shook hands with an entrepreneur on. And then you have to go back home or wherever you're from, and you gotta do your due diligence on 20 deals. And so if you're that investor, I would go, okay, here's the 10 that I don't think will make it. Here's the 10 that I think will make it. Let's get some info from them and cut it down to 5 and then cut it down to 4. Nobody's walking out at 2 weeks of negotiations with 20 deals and doing all 20 deals. It doesn't happen like that. So we sent in our info, we got some questions back, we sent in our info again, and then never really heard back. And by that time the episode aired, we brought in some sales, and we sold a lot of wholesale, so we would sell to stores. And so we called up all our stores and said, hey, our episode's coming out on Dragon's Den. You're gonna want to buy some inventory ahead of time so it's in stock. And we used that as a way to promote the product as well. Yeah, the whole goal there was shake hands with as many dragons as you can, get a deal so that it's most likely to get aired, and it worked out great for us.
In the end, Burgundy Oak eventually sold, completely independent to Dragon's Den and all that stuff. How did you navigate that kind of process, and what was the most valuable lesson you took away from selling your first corporation?
When we say sold, it wasn't for a big figure. It was more like the business was generating great revenue, but it wasn't netting what we wanted it to do in the wholesale furniture side. Okay. But other sides of the business were generating lots of profit. For instance, we were renting out barrels for weddings. Yeah. We were doing a lot of services on that side of things, and that business was extremely profitable. So we sold off part of the business, we shut down the rest of the business. And at that point, it was like an opportunity to say, okay, here's a little bit of money in your pocket. What would you like to do with it? And we decided to go traveling. And then, unfortunately, COVID hit and cut those travels.
Or fortunately, depending on
Or fortunately, yeah, depending on how you look at it. So it was one of those things where it definitely wasn't the fairy tale ending. It didn't work out the way that we kind of hoped it would. But it was a huge learning lesson, and it really taught, I think, all of us a lot about business and how we want to run businesses moving forward.
How long was Burgundy Oak around for?
Started in 2016, I'd say beginning of 2016, maybe end of 2015, and then probably until December of 2019.
Okay.
Something along there.
Wow. Perfect timing, just before the world started shutting down in, what was that, March? Yeah, it was about March of 2020.
Yeah, we left in February and came back in March.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you
crazy.
were on the other side of the world when I was also getting stranded in Portugal, and wild times. That I definitely had a question here about kind of your transitioning from Burgundy Oak to finance and kind of the finance education and what drove that, but you kind of gave that insight. It was the world shut down. You were looking for something to do. You got in on the financial aspect. Did you do your research on, because you and I were talking before the show about different segments and payouts for content. Did you do your research then, and then you're like, hey, finance is a space that I think I could really sink my teeth into, or was it even that premeditated?
A little bit. So like in university, I took a intro to the stock market course where the entire course was about how the stock market works. One of the projects was you get $100,000 in fake money. You got to invest it over 6 or 8 weeks. And whoever gets the best return gets like a 10% bonus on the project or whatever. And so I took that course and I fell in love with the stock market. But entrepreneurship and building that company at the time was a much larger priority for me.
Okay.
And so everything I was doing was basically going into the company. So I didn't have a ton of money to invest, and I couldn't do a whole lot in the stock market, but it was always something that I was kind of monitoring or doing on the side, or something I was always kind of passionate about, but just didn't have an outlet for it. And when we came back from traveling, I now had 2 weeks to basically quarantine where I couldn't do anything else but kind of entertain myself at the house. And I started getting back into the stock market and really focusing on building my own portfolio and trying to find my own kind of financial freedom. And so what I started doing was just expressing and filming videos of how-to videos, tutorial videos, and walkthrough videos of whatever I was trading, buying, selling, investing in, or researching. And it just slowly grew over time. Now, when it comes to, did I think about the monetization side of it behind? I had been watching content in the space for a long time, and it was pretty clear that the wealthiest YouTubers I could find were definitely in the finance space, and they were definitely making the most money from their YouTube channels. So I wouldn't say that was the motivation, but it was definitely like an additional factor that was considered into it.
I couldn't picture you being one of the unboxing kind of guys on YouTube.
No.
I couldn't imagine that. So
Yeah.
finance seems to just fit.
Yeah, the finance thing was really good because it was something I was really passionate about. And then when you do your research and you do diligence on it, it's like, wow, this is probably the space that pays the highest in the world of YouTube, for instance. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm just going to keep talking about whatever I'm doing here. But I also come from this like business mindset. I just left a business. And so I said, if I'm going to make content, I'm going to turn this into a real business, and I'm going to try and monetize it as fast as I can. And so I started making content on YouTube. I put together a course on Skillshare. I built a community on Discord, and I signed up for some affiliate programs. And so within the first month there, I had 4 or 5 different revenue streams that were all starting to pay me. And I basically built an Excel sheet that tracked every income stream by month. And I told myself, as long as this number keeps going up to the point that I can pay myself what I'd like to make on a month, at a minimum on a monthly basis, then I'm just going to keep going with it because I had some runway. And so I think it was like month 3 or 4 where I made, maybe month 5, where I made way more than I was paying myself previously. And so I was like, okay, there's a huge opportunity here. And it was like 2 or 3 months after that GameStop happened, and all of my stuff continued to skyrocket. And at that point I was like, this is a full business here now. Awesome. So it was really cool. It was just one of those things where you look for traction and double down where you find it.
That's great.
Yeah.
What's been kind of the most rewarding part of teaching finance through your YouTube channel and your Skillshare courses so far?
Okay, so the most personally rewarding part is like the reviews and the emails that I get.
Okay.
I put my content on Skillshare. When somebody signs up through my link, they get 1 month free access to Skillshare. It's basically the Netflix of courses, but it allows them to take all of my content, and if they do it within a month, they don't have to pay for it as long as they cancel the subscription. And so for anybody that actually watches my content and follows that, they can take my entire course totally for free. And My intro to the stock market course has over 24,000 students in it right now, and the reviews are 87 or plus percent like 5-star reviews. There's over 400 of them, and I get emails on a weekly basis saying, hey, this was the starting point that I needed. That's the like most personally rewarding one.
It's got to be a driving factor for you to wake up and do some extra content and just,
yeah,
you know that you're going to get that impact with somebody.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where I'm not making as much as I probably could because the courses are on Skillshare, but I'm impacting way, way more people than I would have if I was selling the course for $500. And so it's one of those trade-offs.
Okay. Other than checking out your intro to the stock market, for someone who's just starting out in trading, what's one piece of advice you wish you had when you began?
Start with a practice account where they give you fake money and then you can invest it in the real market.
Okay.
There's no rush to get into the market. So if you're trying to do anything that's active where you're buying and selling, use fake money for a month or two and see if you would actually make or lose money. The reason I say that is because the point in time where you're most likely to lose money is right in the beginning. And so if you can lose fake money instead of your real money, you just have so much less of a hole to dig out of. And then a lot of people, the number one question I ask somebody when they're like looking for advice and getting started is, do you have a journal where you're documenting what you're doing?
Okay.
Because if you can document your buys and your sells or your reason for getting in or out of an investment, you can then analyze that data and try and improve your strategy over time. And that's the number one thing that most people just kind of skip over.
They don't reflect.
They don't, yeah, exactly. They'll make 10 trades in a day and then they'll get up from their desk and go do something else. And the next day they'll do the same thing, but they don't look at the data from what they did in order to try and improve the strategy and not make the same mistakes or make more of the actions that made profit. And so it's literally a cycle of do whatever you want to do, whether you're day trading or swing trading, whatever it might be. Do whatever you want to do, gather data while you do it, analyze that data, and try and improve it the next time. And it's just a continuous cycle. And the people that are making money in the markets are the people that can do that the best.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to make note of that. That's something I need to get into a little bit more actively versus being a passive, just throw this into my Wealthsimple and have them manage it for me. Not the worst approach, but it's better than nothing. Okay, 3D printing, your e-commerce business. How did you get into the 3D printing and building an Amazon store? What even excites you about that venture?
Okay, the Amazon stuff started with Burgundy Oak. We were selling wood chips, which was a small bag of wood chips you could use in your smoker, and it was a CPG, or consumer packaged goods product. And it was something that I thought would do extremely well online, but living here in Calgary, shipping to the United States is kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah, is that just due to some of the tariffs and stuff like that, or?
Not necessarily the tariffs, but more so the shipping rates. It's just really expensive to ship a small box from Calgary to, let's say, California or Florida. And so if somebody orders 1 or 2 bags of wood chips that are only $10, they'd be paying $30 or $40 in shipping a lot of the time. So it really just didn't work with our typical business model of shipping out from our warehouse. So we tried to find warehouses in the United States that would do it. When it comes to that, you kind of have a few different options there. But we chose to go with Amazon because we could list the products directly in that marketplace and we could connect our website to it. And so we started selling wood chips through Amazon in that company. And at that point, I kind of realized how valuable Amazon can be as a partner for your business, because not only did we ship in bulk to Amazon, so our shipping costs drastically diminished per unit, but Amazon then warehoused all of that inventory, took that inventory and distributed it across the United States, and then delivered it to customers within 2 days through Amazon Prime. And it opened up that product to a huge market that never would have seen it otherwise, because they just regularly shop on Amazon.
Yeah, they just kind of use it as a Google source.
Exactly. And all of a sudden our product pops up for wood chips. So it opened us up to a new market, plus they handle all the returns and customer service. And so when I realized all the benefits that Amazon could provide a company based in Calgary, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And on the side, I opened up another Amazon account. I created another product. I tried to sell it on Amazon personally. And that kind of just built up to a few $100s a month. And I ran that basically as a side project from probably 2018 all the way to 2021 or 2022, all the way through Burgundy Oak and everything. It was just kind of a side project for me, but it was never bringing in any big revenue. And so I decided, okay, in 2022, I'm going to put some effort into this and actually try this out and see what I can do. And at the time, I had a 3D printer through my brother, and I was starting to get into that as a hobby as well. And I realized there were a few products that were currently being made that would actually be made better with higher quality and higher reliability if they were 3D printed. And so I just learned how to design. I created one of those products, tried to sell it on Amazon through my account, and it ended up selling really good. And at the time, I was outsourcing all of the 3D printing. I decided to bring that in-house. I bought a few more 3D printers, and then it's just kind of snowballed into its own business now. And we develop and design products. We launch them on Amazon. If they do well, I have a full print farm to scale it up and sell hundreds or thousands of units. And once we kind of surpass that, I'll go get everything injection molded.
Okay. So one thing that I personally know just from knowing you is you're very skilled at, and don't take this in an offensive way because people think like tinkering is just, it's not seen as a skill, but you have this knack for being able to literally, I want to do this thing, and I refer to it as tinkering.
Yeah.
And you always figure out, like I saw your intake and outtake in your basement for the hot and cold air, and like you built that yourself. Where do you learn all of these kind of supporting skills for these businesses that you're launching? Because you obviously taught yourself how to do the designing aspect for your own, I don't even know how many products you have on your Amazon store, but you designed most of those yourself. Where do you learn these kind of skills? Is it, once again, the environment that you feed into YouTube, or?
It's one of those things where they're just solo individual skills that you learn how to do one at a time, and then they kind of build on each other. And I try to do new projects so that I can learn new skills. So for instance, over the summer, we 3D printed a boat, and I learned how to do fiberglass and epoxy and stuff like that. So honestly,
3D printed boat go.
It worked. I can't say it worked well, but it worked. You can check out my TikTok if you want to see it. Yeah, I'm not taking any guests out for joyrides anytime soon, but next year we might have a bigger one, so we're working on it. But honestly, they're just individual skills that you build up as tools on your tool belt with different projects. And then what happens is you look at the world and you say, okay, wow, I can use my tools to take this technology here and this service here and combine them together, and it creates something unique. And I mean, that's basically what I did with Amazon and 3D printing, was like, here's a cool technology to manufacture products that's new to the world and hasn't been applied to a lot of categories yet. And here's an amazing way to distribute products in the United States, which is the largest market in the world, from a tiny little shop in Calgary, Alberta. And so now I can launch a product, I can almost mass produce it, and I can have it available nationwide in the largest market in the world with 2-day shipping in a matter of under a month, which is just unheard of 5-10 years ago.
The idea to a completed sold product in under a month it's crazy.
Yeah.
In terms of running a business out of your home, it obviously comes with quite a bit of unique challenges. How do you kind of stay motivated and organize your day? Yeah, how do you organize your day? How do you stay motivated, especially with it operating from your home?
Yeah, systems and processes that kind of make sure that there's nothing that I need to do to actually operate the businesses. But like when I wake up, I have kind of a checklist. It's go make sure that my employee is good and has everything that he needs, and the print farm is up and running and things are smooth there. If that's good, then he can kind of handle everything in that business from an operational standpoint. After that, it's get into the markets, figure out what's happening, figure out what my community needs, see if there's anything that I need to adjust in my portfolio, and kind of just understand where everything's at. After that, I try and focus on the Amazon store and the actual kind of customer facing side. How can I increase sales? How can I develop new products? How can I just make the business better? Whatever's going to move the needle there. And then after that, it's like content. So it's, okay, everything's taken care of for the day. My businesses are up and running. I know where I'm at in the markets. How can I make content either about what just happened, what's about to happen, or what I think about the market? And so that's sort of how I structure my day, but it definitely changes based on priority. If there's something big happening in one, everything adjusts. Yeah.
You obviously manage quite a diverse amount of businesses now. To a degree, I guess if you kind of look at it yourself, they probably are more synergistic than they are completely independent. Because I remember when you first started your financial side of your business, you were not only just doing the trade and making the monetary gains on that, you, as you said, you were documenting it and using that as content, and then you took that content to create courses, and it's kind of like this perfect triangle. Where do you see the synergies in, say, your angel investing with your courses, with your 3D printing, or do you just that they maybe are independent of one another? They fuel something else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The angel investing, I try to only invest into businesses where I have a good understanding and a good knowledge of the industry and the business itself, as well as an ability to help them. Okay. So for instance, I try to send as many customers as I can to Good Lawyer. I'm in another company called Blossom Social, where I try to send as many users and engage with as many users as I can. So the angel investing, I try to focus on something where I have some type of an advantage other than just writing a paycheck. I don't. Yeah, maybe not necessarily like an active investor, but I want to be able to help in some way, other than just a check. Okay. I want to be able to support them in some way. So that's kind of separate from the other two. When I think about the other businesses, though, what I kind of bring everything back to is manufacturing. Like the 3D printing business is a manufacturing business. We are manufacturing a product, and we use Amazon for distribution and a lot of marketing and sales. When it was Burgundy Oak, we were manufacturing wine barrel, decor, and furniture. When it comes to the media business, I actually think of it very similarly, where I'm just manufacturing content. It's nothing more than a medium, but it's another manufacturing. Exactly. Process. Like, okay. I'm just trying to find the absolute most efficient way to get the best end quality product with the lowest inputs. So how can I spend as little time and energy and still get out a really good video at the end? And then how can I do that 4 times a day or 28 times a day and then block it out for a week? Okay. And so I think of them all as manufacturing jobs. And when I think about business, one of our friends actually said this best, was like, think about your business in a bottleneck. And as the CEO, your job is to identify that bottleneck and widen it and then go find the next bottleneck. Who was it who said that? I think it was Grant from Good Lawyer. Oh, wow. I think. Okay. It was either Grant or Wade. I'm not sure which one it was, but I think it was Grant. And it is so true. As the CEO, your job is identify the bottleneck, open up the bottleneck, or put the people in place that can do that. That's how you scale a business, or at least a manufacturing business.
I like that. Sounds like you're kind of actively applying that 80-20 rule, because you said with the least amount of input to drive the highest amount of output. Do you find that's what you do often? You don't pursue perfection, but you pursue a high level of quality with low amount of effort. I don't know how to phrase that better, but
yeah. So it totally depends on kind of where you're trying to position yourself in the market. But what I've found is, in the world of social media, it is so much better to put out 4 videos that are good than 1 video that's perfect. There's just such a beneficial return to putting out more content. And so if you look at any of my content on Instagram or TikTok or even YouTube, none of it has super high production value. None of it has anything super flashy in it, but I put out a lot of content. And for instance, in November, 3 of my TikTok videos got over 1 million views, but I never could have told you like that video is gonna be the one. And so sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes you also don't need a big audience. Sometimes it's, if you can get 1,000 of the right people to watch your video and engage with you, that can make your year. So that's my advice if you're trying to get into the content space. Don't search for perfection, focus on traction. Try and find traction and double down on it.
I've definitely appreciated having people like you, and then my first guest, Evan Luft, because he talked about it quite a bit, that it's almost detrimental to your channel and your brand by pursuing perfection. And for Evan, he talks very much about authenticity is actually seen more commonly in people that aren't pursuing perfection. Like, it's actually this is my blunders, this is how I put out my content. And it's pretty obvious for anybody that watches this, I'm a team of one. So yeah, my edits are a little rough because I'm learning this as I go, and I am just putting out the content and I'm getting people from my friend group. That is a part of the whole podcast itself. But yeah, I could sit there until 3 o'clock in the morning and try and make sure that fade is perfect and it catches right on the second. But the reality is the algorithms still have a part to play in this, and you just never know when it's going to catch. So I appreciate having people like you kind of reaffirm that I'm going to be approaching this the correct way.
Yeah. If you get caught up on those details, just remember that you're better off taking that time and putting it into the next piece of content than trying to make that one just absolutely perfect, especially if you're starting out.
Yeah.
If you have proven the model and you can do one video a month and you know it's always going to be a banger because you've just mastered the algorithm and you figured out what your viewers want, then you're in a different situation. But if you are just starting out and you're trying to find your niche and you're really trying to get those first few views, you're way better off putting out more and more content and cycling, going through that cycle of the process and just trying to add one new piece every time. Just add one new edit or one new transition or one new little cool shot to it. But do it consistently, do it repeatedly, and do it more often.
Okay, nice. So we often hear about online trolling, just cancel culture, anything like that. Do you have any stories or have you even experienced it, and how did you overcome it? Because that's probably the biggest concern I have about putting myself out there is it's the internet. Who knows where you might end up, and when things might get drudged up. Yeah, how did you kind of approach that?
Oh yeah, I've got trolls all the time. I got people that don't like my content. I got people that comment and just say it's wrong and they have no idea what they're talking about. The biggest thing here is you are never going to please everybody. But I have enough social proof, I have enough knowledge in my head, and I feel pretty good about what I've done. And so do the 23,000 students that have taken my course. And so I'm not worried about what a troll says or what a nasty comment says on any of my videos. And for anybody that's worried about that or has a concern about that, what I will tell you as somebody that's been through it and being concerned about it is you'll get the weird question here or there from a family member or from a friend that doesn't understand it, but you will get 10 times more support of people that want to help you or reach out or will like your comment or like your videos, and you haven't seen them in years, but they're there to support you. So focus on the people that give you energy and support you and love what you're doing, and completely ignore, block, and erase the people that are trolling you. It's so easy to block somebody these days that it shouldn't take up any space in your mind, to be honest.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's also a level of confidence that you have in what you're putting out there too. Once again, drawing on the fact that I know you, the stuff that you put out, you wholeheartedly believe in what you're messaging to other people.
Yeah.
And you are it's forget you. If you're going to troll me, I know that this is going to be beneficial to somebody, and I think that comes a lot with your inner confidence that you.
Yeah, and it really comes down to don't spew garbage, don't spew something that's wrong, and if you're going to talk about something, it's really helpful if you actually do it. So this week, I'm here's the best way to convert currency in an investing account, and I pull up my trade converting 50 grand in currency, and so you can literally see that I'm kind of preaching what I'm kind of doing what I preach, and so you have to be able to back up what you say. And it also, if somebody comes at you and let's say they're bigger than you on social media or they have a social media presence, if you can just kind of back up what you're talking about, then you can just go back to the facts. You don't need to attack somebody personally. You don't need to troll them back. You don't need to do anything like that. You can just show them here's the math behind it, which I guess is easy in my industry because everything just comes down to simple numbers, but for other people, I guess, might not be as easy. But yeah, careful what you put out.
Go easy on me, internet. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to winding this down. You've achieved success in various fields now. How has your definition of success evolved over time?
Yeah, we have a bit of an illusion where success looks like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and these kind of guys. And I used to think, holy cow, I'm in university for entrepreneurship. I need to be the billionaire entrepreneur that runs the company. And now my like vision of success is a really nice cabin on the lake with a nice wakeboard boat that nobody else knows me, and I can just kind of make YouTube videos about whatever I want. And so my definition of success has changed a little bit now. It's not about trying to be the biggest, baddest entrepreneur in the world. It's about trying to live the lifestyle that I thoroughly enjoy, hopefully as young as possible. So my goal right now is to make as much money as I can in the next few years, and then buy that lake house, buy that boat, retire, buy another house somewhere warm, do the snowbird kind of thing, golf a lot, hang out with the boys. And so that's what my definition of success looks like now. There'll always be a business in there, but that business doesn't need to be the next Facebook or Amazon anymore. It's more about provide for your family, provide for yourself, and then if that happens, fantastic. If it doesn't happen, I still want my baseline to be great.
Okay. Knowing what you know now and your definition or your evaluation of what success looks like to you, what would you say to your younger self, or even just students right now that are, getting started, that are maybe motivated by the Elon Musks of the world? Not saying that we don't need those entrepreneurs, but you
should use them for motivation. Like Steve Jobs is like my not like my mentor, but like my motivator. Like I love what he did at Apple. I love his story. I love everything about it. You need to look up to those people and you need to use them as inspiration, but I don't think you need to replicate them. Mm-hmm. I think if I was given advice to kind of my younger self in that space, it would be figure out where you can sort of combine what you love doing with what the market wants. And if you can do that, you can usually make a lot of money in a really fun way.
Do you look at that the same way as people often saying, pursue your passions? Do you believe that?
No, because if your passion doesn't pay anything, then I'm really sorry, but don't pursue that as a way to pay down your mortgage and pay down your, we live in a market economy, and if the market doesn't want it, then you're just gonna be pushing a boulder up a hill the whole time. No, you need to look for traction. Traction looks like sales, it looks like email signups, it looks like revenue, it looks like profit. And if you can generate those things in an industry or a business or a niche that you're passionate about and that you care about, or that makes an impact in the world, that's what I think you should focus on.
It's just interesting. We definitely live in this world right now, and it's spewed all over every social media. Pursue your passion, pursue your passion. And it's not uncommon to, come across that in just everyday conversation of, I got to find what my passion is so that I can make it my career.
Now, I will say, though, is that there are so many ways to monetize now that didn't exist 10 years ago. Your ability to build a paid community or a digital course or a digital download or a gathering or an event, like there are so many ways to monetize whatever your passion might be. But if you're not the person to execute on that, or your passion doesn't maybe fall into one of those categories, then you still have to pay for your mortgage and pay for your family and support everything. I would think about it that way.
Yeah. You still got to step up and cover those bills.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone who wants to start a business but feels too average to succeed? Obviously, the podcast is not so average.
I listened to you ask Derek that, actually, and I thought about it a little bit. And here's the thing is, most of these people that do really amazing things are average at everything else. Like, I'm an average cook. I am an average writer.
Those chicken wings though yesterday?
Yeah, I'm good on a smoker, but I'm not gonna make you a good pasta. But like, I am average at everything else, but I'm really good at like business strategy and product development. So it doesn't matter if you are average, because the barrier to become an expert at something most of the time is like 20 hours. If you really know what you're trying to figure out, you can learn most of any topic in 20 hours, 20 solid hours if you know what you're looking for. You could become a master at podcast audio if you spent 20 hours really digging into what you actually need to run a podcast on a YouTube stream. And if you are average at something, what I would say is use Skillshare, use YouTube, use any of these resources out there, and devote 20 of your best, most devoted hours possible to a very specific topic, and I guarantee you will no longer be average at that topic. People don't understand the resources that are out there now and how quickly you can learn and become in the top 90 percentile or the top 10% of any given topic so quickly nowadays. It's unbelievable.
I know how I'm going to be spending my Christmas break now. I got to allocate 20 hours of purposeful research.
You could take my 10-hour intro to the stock market course, and it's literally a condensed version of my entire university stock market course. I guarantee you, like, I literally took the university course and I condensed it into a Skillshare course. Don't tell Mount Royal, but that's literally what it is. And so,
For ChatGPT.
yeah, if you took that course and you actually wrote down everything and you intook all the information and could actually apply it, you would be ahead of 95% of the people in Canada and the United States on financial knowledge about the stock market. And it would take less than 20 hours. So if you are average at something, get not average at something by actually putting in the work. That's what I would say to somebody in that position.
Okay. So a large component of this Not So Average podcast is basically bringing up the fact that success isn't linear and it's about kind of those opportunities that you take. Final question for you is, looking back, is there one risk that you're glad you took?
That I'm glad I took? Yeah, it was probably putting my face out on the internet and talking about what I like. Social media changed my life. I had no idea what I was going to do after I came back from Asia. And when I put the first few videos out there and then got a few views and saw traction and doubled down on it, that moment changed my life. And 4 or 5 months later, I was making more money than I'd ever made before. Yeah, that was the thing, is if you're thinking about getting into the space or you're thinking about trying to monetize your passion, and content or building a community is one of the ways that you want to go for, like, you got to put your face out there, because that's how you build authenticity, like what you were talking about before. And it's a scary thing to do in the beginning, but it's one of those things where, like, it sucks for 6 months and you kind of have to get over this hurdle. And then once you get over that hurdle, it gets so much easier, and it's like you were right all along and people just didn't realize it in the beginning. Don't be afraid of what other people think. At the end of the day, is probably what that comes down to.
So putting yourself out there was the biggest risk, but the most rewarding for you. I like that.
Yeah.
So that concludes our episode with Zac Hartley. Zac, how can we support you? How can people find you on the Skillshares? We'll obviously have it in the summary notes, but how can people find you?
Yeah, if you're interested in anything to do with personal finance, investing, or business, all my content is on Skillshare. It's free for a month. Other than that, follow me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and then you can see what I'm doing with my money and where I'm putting it.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to subscribe and follow and share this with all your friends. Let's get after it.